This is TWiT.
Australia, by the way, is going to ban kids under 16 from social media entirely starting January 1st.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like we in the United States have come up with this totally cockamamie idea that that 13 is somehow adult on the internet, right? That like when you're under 13, then you are somehow
Australia's making it 16.
If you were 14, 15,
16,
16, 18.
yeah.
Right. So they're making it 16. You know,
Same problem.
Somebody from like the
I mean, I'm a very
you know,
childish
like
68-year-old. I probably shouldn't be allowed on social media.
I know. It's like I should get banned too.
I know, right? Exactly. I need those warnings telling me to get off like all the time. If you talk to the chief science officer of the American Psychological Association, who gave this really amazing testimony a couple of years ago in front of Congress, you know, he's basically saying like, not until you are 25 are you a cooked human psychologically, and your impulse control, your ability to, resist peer pressure, you know, the whole incentive structure of social media works on your brain so much more powerfully when you're under 25 than you do when you're a fully cooked human. And somehow these...
So that's why we shouldn't let anybody under 25 drive a car, go to war, vote, or drink.
Right.
We don't...
is a good point. Yeah.
We don't do any of that.
That's right. Yeah. But what is the...
and who's to say that social media is warping you anyway? I mean, they thought that novels were going to warp people because they wouldn't have to use their imagination anymore.
Well, I mean, the correlative data shows this incredible spike in all of these mental health difficulties.
Well, I just showed you the graph.
Yeah, right. And those the spike is, begins with the advent of the phone and social media, and then it really spikes in the pandemic, and it's come down a little bit since the pandemic in some cases. But the causation is really hard to prove.
That's the problem. Correlation, really yes, I'll grant you.
Yep.
Causation.
It's hard to find a control group, right? There's only so many Amish communities you can look at, and even they look at the social media. So
even
really
they have Instagram.
It's really
You've seen Amish Instagram. It's very boring.
That's right, but I do think that we are. I'm glad some regulation was signed. I'm worried. I don't love this idea that there's somehow a substantial difference in safety between 13, 16, and 18.
I got the date wrong. This starts December 10th, so we're not very far off in Australia. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, X, and YouTube. Big fines if they don't take reasonable steps to prevent Australians younger than 16 from holding accounts, which means everybody in Australia will have to, I presume, provide government ID before they can use social media. This is the same as in Mississippi, right? Australia, they're putting up billboards to raise awareness. Starting Sunday, the government is raising how to get your kid off social media without withdrawal symptoms.
Oh wow! See,
which is totally a thing, by the way. That is a document.
Oh, imagine you've got teenagers, Jacob, telling them, "Oh no, you can't use social media."
I mean, kids with really high grades will go all the way to full on confrontation with the school enforcement officer when their phone is taken involuntarily. I mean, talk about withdrawal. It is exactly that. But the other thing I would point out, though, we think of Australia as like, whoa, that's so weird, Australia. There's almost 300 million children in China who are basically in the same kind of realm, right?
They're not allowed internet. They're not probably allowed.
Well, they're not allowed. They're not allowed wide open social media.
Well, they have Weibo or.
Yeah, but they, the rules around what they're allowed to see are incredibly strict in that country.
So this is from the Australian E-Safety Commissioner. Get ready. Get ready for December. I feel so sorry for anybody under 16 in Australia. To me, this is just understand what's changing and why. Work out which accounts you'll lose.
This just creates hackers. This is all of these things. It's like any family that I know that uses Life 360, I'm like, your children are going to learn how to get out of Life 360. Like
Right.
anytime you have constraints, like all of my friends who are hackers have this experience where they tell about this story where their parents said, "Oh, you can't."
Yeah. That's how
Like
it
a friend of mine
started.
was like, their parents took away the keyboard from the computer because they were using the computer so much. So then they went onto an AOL chat room, got like a credit card, a fake credit card, and then bought a new keyboard. Like that was the first time they participated in that. Like I think that all of this does is creates people who are very good around getting around these steps. With that said, these all seem half measures to actually address the real issue, that we don't actually know how this is affecting youth. And a lot of times when people are saying how it's affecting youth or have something, it's motivated by some specific, puritanical nonsense or not or whatever. And I think we
gut
really
feeling.
need to dig
It's
in.
gut feeling because it isn't causation, it's correlation. And so I feel like this is bad for kids, and I understand why you might feel that way. But the actual evidence is very scant.
Yep.
And imagine what it would be like for a 15-year-old to suddenly be cut off from all of her friends, except in real life.
I mean, that's
Go ahead, Aurora.
this is happening, 2025. Okay. These social media platforms have been around for so long. If this were to happen when Instagram was taking off or Facebook before that, right, that would be one thing. But, for years, so many teenagers have already built their networks on these platforms. So yeah, to pull the plug so suddenly is going to be jarring. But I also won't deny the fact that for a lot of people, there is an unhealthy attachment to these platforms. And when you're comparing yourself to people for 6 hours a day, it's going to do something.
I agree.
I agree. So
That's
it's like,
right.
what's the middle ground? What's the logical, healthy response? And I think everyone's still working that out.
Here's what the Australian government suggests to under 16s. Schedule regular phone catch-ups with your friends.
Did you know that your phone can place calls? Because I forgot that.
They don't know that.
I thought that was removed.
What's a phone number? Or stay in touch through an age-appropriate online chat or video app. What could possibly go wrong there?
God.
Uh,
I like how it isn't like, get outside and read a book.
It's so freaking clueless. Well, you know what? This is an example of, Australia's going to do the experiment. Let's watch and see. It's maybe
that's the thing. I don't think it's clueless. I just think it's experimental. And let's hope they're like Japan. Let's hope that they
Let's experiment with our children. Why not?
Let's experiment in not letting for-profit companies experiment with them, right? Because that's where we're
good.
at here. That's all we do is say, go ahead, experiment on our kids, right? And like one of the stats I saw the other day was that like 50% of parents, something like 50% of parents say that their number one source of information about what's an appropriate use of technology for their children is the ads from the companies that make the technology.
Not good. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's where we live.
But should government be in loco parentis? Shouldn't the parents be responsible for this? Why are we having government be the parent?
Because the parents aren't responsible for, can't control themselves either. I'm not a good model to my kids about how I use technology in the same way that I wouldn't have been a good model to my kids
Well, that
about
sounds like a
smoking
nanny
cigarettes when I was
state.
a
You
smoker.
can't control yourself, but your kids can't control yourself. I guess as the government, I got to control you. That is not what I want my government to do.
Right. I hear that. But in the United States, right, we are for some reason convinced that people in the grip of compulsion should be in charge of themselves. This is why we have these ludicrous things that get put on, as a former drinker, on booze ads that say, drink responsibly.
Right.
And now on gambling ads, game responsibly. There's no such thing. If you're an alcoholic, there's no such thing as drinking responsibly. I cannot go into a bar.
Yeah, but we
That's how
tried
I
to
do it,
ban alcohol. How did that work out?
That didn't work out well, right? But we did between 1950 and 1965. It took that long for, 1950 is when the first big cigarette studies come out in the US and the UK showing large scale effects, right? And it took forever to do that because everybody was smoking. And so it was really hard to do the comparisons. But
we still haven't banned cigarettes.
No, but we've really restricted what kids can see around cigarettes and kids can't buy them until they're a certain age. Like we have these rules that we figure out. It just takes us forever to figure them out. And I understand that it takes a while. It takes, in the case of cigarettes, it was 15 years between the first big large-scale studies and 1965, which is when the first rules start to come out around that stuff. It took a long time. It took 30 years for gambling to become a diagnosable addiction in this country. So
What are the
it takes us
latest-
a while,
what
but
are
I
the
think
latest-
you gotta be able to identify harms and regulate against those harms at some point. That's what government's for, I think.
What are the latest results of countries that have legalized heroin or legalized addictive drugs versus countries like ours where it's against the law?
Well, they don't.
The last thing I heard is that it really? Okay, because the last thing I heard is it does go well, but you have to obviously provide treatment centers and a lot of support. Right?
Portugal
that's right.
style.
Portugal.
That's right. But you go to I remember going with my mom's a public health, which is nurse and a public health academic, and she took me whenever we would go to cities abroad. She always wanted to take me to the grittiest stuff because she was like,
"Let me show you, Jacob, what could happen."
Not to scare me, just to be she was just interested.
She was interested.
So I remember we were in Zurich when Zurich had this weird policy where this one park in Zurich was you were allowed to basically do any drug you wanted.
Needle
was their
Park,
idea.
yeah.
And they created this Amsterdam, if you're a Wire fan, right? They created the Amsterdam of Zurich. And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And people were coming from all over Europe to camp out in this place because they weren't really providing real services. Now, there is, however, there's harm reduction and there's other ways to deal with it. But but I think just saying there's no rules about it and no support, that's not going to, I don't know. I just think that always goes wrong. We've got to wear seatbelts eventually. We've got to wear football helmets. There has to be a response to things that do us harm.
Yeah, and social media companies are known for making their platforms as addictive as possible. And so I think if the government doesn't say something, then what's to stop them from finding more ways to, make it addictive for everybody, but especially for younger people who, have even less self-control than us fully grown adults.
Bro, are you, how old are you? Are you?
I'm 31. So I grew up,
are you our youngest
I
panel
think
member?
So. And so my social media.
By a long shot.
No, Leo and I actually are a couple of years apart. But,
I'm close.
But what was it like for you? I just am always so curious to hear what it's like. What was it like for you as a kid?
I was in 8th grade when I made my first Facebook account, but I had to lie by a year. And at that point, we didn't have smartphones, right? So when I went home, I couldn't wait to get home to check my Facebook notifications, but I didn't have them following me everywhere. It wasn't like I had this thing in my pocket that I could pull up at every moment and check compulsively. And I still have a social media addiction. At this point, I just set, screen time limits on my phone the other day because I was like, I don't feel okay. I feel like I stare at my screen for work all day and then I relax on my phone and it's not healthy.
It's doom scrolling.
It's doom
these
scrolling.
days.
It doesn't make you feel any better
news.
afterwards. So yeah.
By the way, I don't know any adults now who are not addicted.
Yeah.
God.
They're very few, very, very few. And if you just walk around, you go to a restaurant, whatever, everybody's on their phone all the time.
It's
I remember
depressing.
It is depressing. I remember the first time I saw this before 2007. I was in France. I was sitting outside the Notre Dame and watching all the French people walk around, and they were all texting. They were all on their phones. I thought, that is weird. Little did I know they were just ahead of the game.
Yeah.
We're just so used to it now, we don't even notice it anymore.
Yeah.
And there is, I think, considerable evidence, good evidence that, and that you see this all the time too. When you give a little kid, a 2-year-old, a tablet to keep him quiet during your restaurant meal or in the airplane or in public in any way, those kids are getting really addicted and I think somewhat damaged by YouTube video after YouTube video.
Absolutely.
YouTube is really scary.
It is.
And that's what's changed since you were a kid, Abrar. By the way, my daughter's your age.
Oh, yes.
1 year older.
Yeah.
And she was into Neopets.
Yes.
But because I was a technologist, I was also careful about, I said, well, no, you don't use your real name there. She said, no, I'm a 32-year-old guy from Philadelphia. I drive a Camaro. I said, right on. Good job, Abby.
I love on Neopets. All the other parents are like, what the heck is going on
Who's this
here?
guy?
This guy's crazy. What is happening?
Yeah, I don't think she passed, to be honest. It was a very neon colored 32-year-old guy from Philly. But I really think that it's been kind of weaponized since you and Abby were kids. I mean, it is much, much more addictive and dramatic and follows you around. And just look how Instagram has changed from the beginning to what it is now.
Absolutely. And it used to be about keeping up with your friends. Now it's about opening up your feed, being connected to like
It's TikTok
content from people you don't even know.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And it's nothing about connection. It's nothing about keeping up with people. It's actually more isolating than anything.
Totally.
Which is it's the complete antithesis of what it was supposed to be.
And you know what they say in AA, right? It's one of the teachings in Alcoholics Anonymous is the opposite of addiction is connection. That's it. And once upon a time, these companies were about connecting us, and that does not seem to be the vibe anymore.
Exactly.
No money there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no money there. That's right. That's right.
It's sad.
Meanwhile, Leo's on his phone.
Yeah, sorry, I just was checking my Instagram.
Just got a text.
Just getting on FanDuel for a second. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
I got to make a bet.
Had a funny,
I'll be honest, it's always been like that. I used to work with a radio guy who had a beeper and played the ponies during his show. I mean, with a beeper. I mean, it wasn't, so it's not like there's been compulsive behavior. It's just that if you are that kind of person, I really feel bad for people who have gambling issues because you can't get away from it. It's
moving the wrong direction right now, right? More than half the states have legalized it now.
Yeah.
And guys,
it's all over the NFL. They give you the odds at every moment. And then somebody comes on and says, hey, you can bet at all times during the game. You can make, this really scares me, is these what they call prop bets, where is he going to make the field goal? Are they going to show Taylor Swift more than twice? And you can make these constant bets. You're not just betting on the outcome of the game anymore. It is a constant stimulus. Boom, boom.
Have you seen this
boom.
crazy? There's a whole world now of what they call sports farms in Russia that where where people are playing like endless, like two guys sitting knee to knee in chairs with soccer goals behind them trying to kick a ball into the other thing, like parlor games, basketball, volleyball, but these are not athletes. They're not athletes. They're just random ass people.
And they're streaming it?
And they're streaming it entirely so you can bet on it. Wow. That's all it is. Yeah. It's just action.
They're creating content to bet on.
To bet on. That's it. That's exactly right. And, as a guy I know who had a real sports gambling problem says, he's like, these days, with the rise of sports betting on my phone, it is like being an alcoholic being forced to carry a fifth of whiskey everywhere.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Right.
And now get ready because prediction markets, which are currently kind of restricted, will soon be fully legal. And that means you can bet on everything. Wow. You don't have to wait for two guys in a Russian soccer match or a football game. You can bet on how many of the panelists have tattoos. You can bet on anything in prediction markets. And by the way, there's a lot of evidence that these prediction markets are not the wisdom of the crowds, that they are easily cheated, shall we say. Of course, that's probably the gambler's fallacy. I think everybody who gambles thinks that they have a system that they can beat whatever it is their thing they're doing. Yeah. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed this little snippet from a much longer show we call This Week in Tech. If you want to see the whole thing, there's a link down below. And you know what the best thing to do would be? Like and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.